This man followed a teen and her grandmother who were on a trail, and then he took their lives. In 2021, 17-year-old Hera and her grandmother, 78-year-old Zanetta, were found deceased in their home in Largo, Florida. Earlier that day, Hera and her grandmother went on a walk on the Pinellas Trail not too far from their house. On their way home, 19-year-old Sage Curry followed them to their house. He waited for the sun to go down before entering their home through the bedroom window. Sage then went into the kitchen and looked for the sharpest knife he could find and used that to attack the grandmother as she slept. Hera ran into the room after hearing her grandmother scream, and she was also stabbed to death. What's insane is that there was no relationship between the victims and Sage. He literally did this for absolutely no reason. His family said that his mental health declined after his 18th birthday and he became delusional, so much that he couldn't tell fiction from reality and believed that TV shows he watched were real. While he sat in jail, he got this moon tattooed on his forehead, which referenced a TV show character who had DID. Sage also got one of the victims' names tattooed on his ankle. In court, he really tried to use the insanity defense, but that was rejected. Sage was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Riley Strain's mom finally gave an interview to News Nation, and she talked about the final text that was sent from Riley to her about his drink. People have not talked about this case in a couple of weeks, and this is a pretty big break considering we still don't have footage from inside the bar. If you need a refresher on the case, Riley Strain, he was a fraternity brother who was down on a trip with his frat. He was down in Nashville and he was kicked out of a bar. See him on camera when he hits the street level. He is hammered. He's completely gone, he's wandering aimlessly, he's alone. Eventually, he would vanish that night, and then following a 2-week search, his body was found without his pants, washed up in the Cumberland River. And a lot of dust that was kicked up on this case because a lot of people wanted to know about that drink, and now we have confirmation from his mother. And again, it's a lot to pack into one video. If you want some backstory on this, I've got an episode on it. Riley had apparently texted his mom that his drink at the bar, something was wrong with it. Adds even more suspicion to the GHB theory.
Scariest urban legend from each state, part 2. Charlie No Face from Pennsylvania, also known as the Green Man. It is said he stalks the streets of Pennsylvania at night. Some say it looks like he was stuck in a house fire. Other people say it looks like he got struck by lightning. But he's actually a real person. His name is Raymond Robinson. He doesn't like going out during the day, so he goes for long walks at night. Even though it's safe, I would still look over your shoulder.
Scary Facts That Will Blow Your Mind, Part 1. The middle of nowhere is an actual place within New Mexico. The legend goes that an elderly couple lived out there with their dog and witnessed many strange and bizarre things. One night, they reported seeing a strange creature that they identified as a skinwalker. After reporting this to the police, the family had vanished under strange circumstances. Their dog, however, was left behind. This is the story that Courage the Cowardly Dog was based off of. Like and follow for more.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 21. This photo shows 8-month-old Xiao Bao, who was lucky to be alive because his mother stabbed him 90 times after he bit her while she was breastfeeding him. The world's scariest haunted house, McCamey Manor, requires you to sign a 40-page waiver and undergo a physical and mental evaluation. If you manage to make it through the house, you could win $20,000. But to this day, no one has ever made it through. The little girl who voiced Ducky in The Land Before Time was shot to death by her father, who then committed suicide. Roman Emperor Nero had a boy castrated, dressed him up as a bride, and married him, all because the boy looked similar to his previous dead wife. A 46-year-old man found and attacked a 13-year-old boy because the kid was killing him too many times in a game of Call of Duty.
I really want to talk about this photo. A security guard at the Bryson Avenue Mall located in Virginia took this photo in 2011. It would later be turned into police, but the woman seen here was never found. For context, the security guard's name was Sean Mercado, and he worked the night shift at this mall. But the mall had been having strange things happening for like weeks. Like, on after hours, there are store alarms going off, but nobody's ever found. They're hearing people run through the mall, but again, they never see anybody. Until one night when Sean Mercado goes out to have a cigarette, he's just kind of patrolling the parking lot, and he goes back to enter through the employee entrance when he saw this woman staring back at him from inside the mall. He takes a photo for proof, and then he radios for backup, and he goes in after her. He claimed to chase her as fast as he could, but he eventually lost her inside that mall, and despite a police investigation, she would never be found.
Disturbing brain facts you didn't know about. The brain will protect itself even if it means misery to you or death. Inhaling smoke in the middle of a burning house. Brain will make you stop breathing and pass out. Stuck in the middle of a cold place. You will fall asleep to conserve energy and never wake up again. Had your leg torn off by a bear. Here's adrenaline. So you can save your brain even if there's a huge risk of infection or further injury. You and your brain work together most of the time, but when push comes to shove, you are sacrificed.
And this is why you should never kiss a baby on the lips.
This is a result of somebody kissing her on the mouth. When parents say not to kiss their children, this is one of the reasons.
This is a recent photo of 8-year-old Bri Lynn. She was born healthy, but as a baby, she was kissed on the lips by someone who had a cold sore, and her life changed forever. So after this happened, she began having seizures and became extremely sick. And since as a baby, your immune system is not developed, the HSV infection attacked her brain and left her with a severe brain injury. Her mother explains that the left side of her brain is 60% damaged and the right side is 10% damaged. And because of this, Bri Lynn has never been able to walk or talk, and doctors don't even know how long she'll live. There was actually another child in the past who had the same thing happen to them, and they only lived until the age of 7. And here's the thing, many people can argue that they've kissed their baby and nothing like this has ever happened, but this is still very possible, especially if you have a contagious virus in your system. I mean, just to be safe, we should all avoid doing this.
With today being Easter, here's a terrifying story of Bunnyman Bridge. Bunnyman Bridge is a bridge located in Northern Virginia. The story takes place in 1904. Located close to Bunnyman Bridge was an insane asylum, which one night was transporting a couple of inmates, where the car randomly crashed, having all of the inmates freed, taking the county a couple days to find all of them. After they were all found, there was only one missing, and at the time that person was missing forever. The story goes that when people went near the bridge, they found a bunch of unalived bunnies, as if someone was eating them, which people assumed was probably the escaped prisoner who had nowhere else to go. Then one Halloween night, a group of teenagers decided to go to Bunnyman Bridge. They were there hanging out having a great time, and all of a sudden they saw a flash of light. And the next morning when someone was passing over Bunnyman Bridge, they ended up seeing a bunch of teenagers just hanging out there, if you know what I mean. Completely turned inside out. Almost something out of a horror movie. And that's where the tale of the Bunnyman Bridge comes in. It's stated that if you go to Bunnyman Bridge, you say Bunnyman, do a bunch of weird things, there's a possible chance that this Bunnyman comes out of nowhere. And if he gets you, he more or less unalives you. Now yes, Bunnyman Bridge is an urban legend. Kind of something like the Goat Man. But if you really think about it, does it really make sense? On Halloween night, isn't the portal between the human and the other realm a little bit thinner? Would it make it possible for something like this to come through? Me personally, I don't know. If this video gets 100,000 likes, I'll visit Bunnyman Bridge and see what's really going on there.
Gruesome Facts You Didn't Know, Part 148. Despite his massive success, musician Dave Grohl has always been very frugal with his money. When he was a child, his mother, who was a public school teacher, had a stroke while filing her taxes. He said it left a mark on him, that money will kill you. People will spend their lives dying inside just because of money. This is what babies in the womb look like on an MRI scan. Terrifying. In 2004, an Iranian woman was left blind and disfigured after having acid thrown in her face. Her attacker did this because she refused his marriage proposal. She told the judge instead of the man paying money or spending time in jail, she wanted an eye for an eye. She was granted her request, and in 2008, a court ordered that he be blinded in both eyes.
Everyday things you didn't know had a purpose. Alright, most people think that the hole in the pot handle is meant to hang it, but they can also be used to hold a spoon so when you're cooking you don't make a mess everywhere. Next, we have these tiny things on jeans. They're actually called rivets, and their purpose is to reinforce jeans in areas that will be super fragile. And the hole in the pen cap is actually a safety feature, because if you were to swallow one, you wouldn't choke, and air would still be able to get through that tiny hole. And finally, pom-poms on beanies were actually made for sailors, because when they were at sea they would sometimes hit their head on low ceilings, and the pom-poms basically protected their head while keeping them warm.
What is the scariest game you've ever played? I get this question almost every time I post a video or stream. And even though I've probably played well over 100 horror games, it's probably something like Dead Space, Outlast, or PT, right? It's actually something you might not have heard of. The scariest game I've ever played is a game called Lost in Vivo. But what makes this game so terrifying? Lost in Vivo takes inspiration from many different horror classics and puts them into one horrifying package. Every different type of scare you can imagine is in this game. It's also one of the only horror games I've ever played that gets scarier the longer you play. If you're not someone that gets scared easily, give this one a try.
Scary Christmas Urban Legends, Part 1. Hopefully you're not eating right now, because this one's gonna make you lose your appetite. So this is mincemeat pie. Apparently people actually like this and like to eat it during Christmas time. Legend goes that it was created in the 16th century as a way for humans to cook and eat other humans. You heard me correctly, humans were added to this dish. And apparently this rumor or legend is why mincemeat pies no longer have meat in them. At least most don't anymore. Delicious. Like and follow for more weird shit like this.
After watching Quiet on Set, I realized that predators like this will purposely get jobs that involve children. So this is Brian Peck, and he worked with Nickelodeon in the early 2000s, and he was an acting and dialogue coach. Well, it turns out that he was essaying Drake Bell at a very young age. Drake was only 15 years old when this was going on, but he actually didn't tell anyone until he revealed everything in this documentary. Brian was somehow able to manipulate Drake and turn him against his father, and then he took that opportunity to get him alone and do disgusting things to him. But eventually in 2003, Drake spoke up and Brian was arrested and charged with SA. Now, my jaw dropped to the floor when I found out that this 43-year-old man was only sentenced to 16 months in jail. And then it gets even worse. After his release, despite him being registered as a sex offender, he still found work in Hollywood and began working on the set of The Suite Life of Zack and Cody. Now, shortly after Drake spoke out about what happened to him, he started on set with this new show, Drake and Josh. And what I find crazy is that as kids, we're watching these shows and we're being entertained, but we actually have no idea what's going on behind the scenes.
Here's how a bowling alley actually works and why it's dangerous. When you throw a ball and rolls down the lane, close to the end there's an infrared sensor, so when the ball rolls past it, it sends information to the control unit. But the thing is, it doesn't actually know if it's a ball or something else. Then the sweep is lowered to protect the pins from other balls, and if you were to get stuck behind that, there's barely any chance of you getting out of this unharmed, because the sweep pushes the pin back into a pit, and then a rotating conveyor belt brings the pins back up, which could crush you or cause broken bones. Then the ball goes into a hole which brings it back to the next player. Once all of this is done, you're ready to play again if you're still alive.
This pastor is being accused of unaliving his own wife. This case is currently ongoing, but it's been so highly suggested, so this is what we know so far. On April 28th, Pastor John Paul Miller made the shocking announcement at the end of his church service that his wife, Micah, had unalived herself. He then asked everyone to leave quietly and not discuss his wife's death. Micah's family and friends do not believe this cause of death and have taken to social media with the hashtag Justice for Micah. John Paul also wrote Micah's obituary, where he talked mostly about himself, not even Micah, who was the one that passed away. He also painted their marriage as like a perfect relationship, which is really odd considering that Micah filed for divorce and a restraining order against her husband only days before her passing. In the weeks prior to Micah's passing, she was sharing on Facebook about abusive relationships and really just hinting that something wasn't right. A friend of Micah's has come out and confirmed that Micah told her that there was abuse in the marriage, and also that church funds were being used for things not church related. And since, more friends and family of Micah have come out with similar accounts. Also been some speculation that John Paul was having an affair, a years-long affair with this woman that he's been seen in the days before and the days after Micah's death. That woman's husband also passed away in a really suspicious way, but that's just online speculation for right now. The investigation is currently ongoing, so hopefully we have answers really soon. But in the meantime, make sure to leave all your thoughts, theories, questions, and case suggestions in the comments for me.
Allegedly, one of the teens accused of being involved in the death of Arizona teen Preston Lord was hidden away by his father after the attack. He also allegedly bragged about Preston's funeral being a closed casket service. 17-year-old Talon Renner was one of the teens accused of Preston's murder, and he is being held on a $1 million bond after pleading not guilty. Now the ex-girlfriend of Renner's father, Travis Renner, who broke up with Travis after the murder but remains close to the family, allegedly made claims to police revealing what happened with Renner after the murder. According to the New York Post, she shared that she decided to make the report to police after seeing the lack of remorse that Talon Renner had following the release of video surveillance allegedly showing him bragging about getting away with Preston's murder, and how he was given a closed casket funeral because of how badly he was beaten. One of the things that came from this report was that Travis Renner allegedly moved his son Talon to the family's $850,000 cabin in Show Low, which is 3 hours away from his home, after Preston's death. Ex-girlfriend claimed to have messaged Talon Renner on Snapchat while he hid at the cabin. He allegedly shared a photo of him walking the family dog Gucci, and she claims that in that photo, his jaw was swollen. She also claimed that the Renner family attorney had allegedly advised them to let Talon's hands heal before coming back to his hometown of Gilbert. Allegedly told police that Renner holds in a lot of aggression, and when he snaps, he snaps. Additionally, Ashley Reynolds, a former employee of Travis Renner at Relentless Media Agency, told the Arizona Republic last month that Travis and the company's CEO, Adam Kiefer, allegedly discussed moving Talon to the cabin and shifting the blame on another boy involved in the deadly assault. She claimed that the two men asked her to help with the quote-unquote crisis and regularly provided updates to her about the case, and she remained unwilling to help for 2 months, after which she was fired. This all comes amid many claims that the families of the 6 accused suspects, known as the Gilbert Goons, were involved in covering up the murder and helping the teens get away with it. But I just want to note this is all alleged and nothing has been confirmed by police.
Could this pregnant woman's body from the human body exhibition be of the missing news anchor? The human body exhibition is all real humans that pass, and there's this one pregnant lady with a real baby. The thing is, nobody actually really knows who all these people are. The founders claim that these are patients from the hospital who have consented and passed from old age or health issues, but apparently there's no proof of that. This is once China's pretty well-known news anchor, Miss Zhang. She was particularly the news anchor for the province of Dalian. She was a beautiful news anchor in the 90s, and the crazy thing is somebody has deleted all her content from the station. So these are rare photos that we have of her because all her videos are deleted. Now in 1998, she would mysteriously go missing, but her family says that she was actually almost full-term pregnant. And who was the baby daddy? Turns out she was actually the mistress of then Dalian's mayor, Bo Xilai. This is his wife, by the way. And allegedly, she was pregnant with the mayor's baby. And the story goes that the wife found out and she was not happy. The last known rumor or report was that she was last seen at a hotel and apparently tried to self-harm herself because of all the drama. But a pregnant lady trying to self-harm herself? I mean... Okay, so where's her body then? Till this day, her family, her friends, nobody found her body yet. A couple years later at the Human Body Exhibition, this body shows up. Now a Korean documentary crew evaluated this body and they say that this looks almost full term, about 8 to 9 months. And Zhang, when she went missing, she was pregnant almost full term, 8 to 9 months. The crazy coincidence is that the original factory that decided to work with the founder of the Human Body Exhibition, the factory happened to be in Dalian. And further research, who owned the factory? The mayor's wife. There was a lot of controversy years later that apparently a lot of the bodies did not come from hospital patients. It actually could be Chinese prisoners that's been executed. Apparently, the family of Miss Zhang tried to do DNAs for years, but because it's been so processed, you can't really do that anymore. We don't know if the families ever got their answers, but could this be the news anchor? Years later, the former Mayor Bo was sentenced for corruption, and the wife was sentenced for murdering her business coworker. There's a lot more details. I did a full YouTube video on it. Link will be in my bio.